Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Ask the Experts. I am so excited. Today, our live stream is titled Understanding OCD with the IOCDF, Finding Hope and Community. If you are not aware, we had Sunday kicked off OCD Awareness Week, and we are enjoying OCD Awareness Week all week long until this Saturday at 11:59 and 59 seconds. We need that extra 59 seconds, folks, to really squeeze in those last couple minutes of fun time for OCD. So we're going to jump in all things. What is OCD? What does the first line treatment look like for OCD? We're going to hear some personal experiences. We're going to talk about the International OCD Foundation. We're going to talk about what resources are out there. One of the things I always say about these live streams, these virtual events, including virtual conferences, is it allows people to get access year round to get treatment and education and support and community for OCD and related disorders. So we are so excited to be here. If you're just joining us, go ahead and pop in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Are you watching from England? Are you watching from Texas? Are you watching from California, my hometown? Where are you from? We want to know. Make sure to say hi and let us know who you're here to support. Are you here watching this for yourself? Are you here watching this for your family? Do you have a family member with OCD? Who are you here to get information for? We always like to find out and make sure that we have enough materials for those people. So whatever platform you're on, we're live streaming right now on Twitch, on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, on iocdf.com/live or .org/live, iocdf.org/live. So put in the chat, whatever platform you're on, say hi to your fellow watchers. Before I jump in and we introduce the guests, the two beautiful ladies on the screen with me, we are going to talk a little bit about some announcements. So the first announcement we have to let you know is that right now we are in OCD Awareness Week, like I said, but I want you to go to the calendar. The IOCDF has an amazing events calendar right there at OCD Week. There you can find all about what events are local, are virtual, things you can do in person, things you can do virtually, how you can spread the word about OCD. There's a lot of beautiful graphics with really important information. So make sure to check that out. Head over to iocdf.org/OCD Week. Also, make sure that if you are in a crisis situation, this live stream is intended to be supportive, to give you education, resources, and information. We can't jump in and help in a crisis situation. So if you are in a crisis, please head over to your local emergency room, contact your clinician. You can dial 988. Go to 988lifeline.org or go to iocdf.org/find-help to look for a trained professional near you. And then finally, like I said, we are live streaming on all these different platforms. So please make sure that you say hi, keep it supportive, and say hi to people in your community. All right. Well, there is no two other people I would rather be sharing this live stream with to tell you everything about the IOCDF and everything about OCD. So I have two people on the screen with me. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So starting with you, Stephanie, go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Lovely to be here. Lovely to see you all. Thanks for that great handoff there, Chris. And I'm loving seeing everyone introduce themselves in the chat. Please keep doing so. But I'm Steph. I'm the program director at the International OCD Foundation. I've worked for the organization for almost 13 years, which is a little wild. I mean, I'm still a baby. How could I possibly be here for 13
At 21,
years?
so you must have started when you were like 8.
I know, right? That's the prime time to enter the workforce. Absolutely. But yes, so I work at the IOCDF. My background is in public health and social work, and I am just so thrilled to be here talking with you all, and especially delighted to be sharing the screen with you, Chris, and with you, Kira.
Yay. Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, Stephanie is, if you are not familiar with Stephanie is the reason a lot of the events that we have here at the IOCDF are happening and why they run smoothly. I definitely know that there is so much hard work and last minute fires to put out for all the different events, and Stephanie is always there to support it. So super excited about having Stephanie on here. There's nobody better from the IOCDF staff to talk all things OCD. So happy to have you, Stephanie. And Kira, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Kira. I'm super honored and excited to be here talking about OCD during the best time of the year, OCD Awareness Week. I am an IOCDF advocate. I'm also on the IOCDF's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Action Council. I've lived experience with OCD, and I also run my own organization that provides support to those affected by OCD. And I'm super, super excited to be here with Chris and Stephanie, two of my idols in the OCD community. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Kara. We love all that you're doing, obviously, as well, and being an IOCDF advocate and supporting the community and supporting the foundation. So we're going to take it real back to the beginning. So, with OCD Awareness Week, this is a lot of people's first time really getting information about what OCD is. We obviously know that there's a lot of misunderstanding about this condition in the media. We see it in TV, we see it in commercials, we see it in people and kind of just like colloquial statements like "I'm so OCD." So why don't I'll ask clinically, Stephanie, why don't you tell our audience a little bit, just what is OCD? What could somebody, if they're on the fence, if they may have it, they came across this live stream because they've been sort of Googling and finding different things. What are those kind of main signs that somebody may have OCD?
Absolutely. And yeah, definitely welcome. If this is your first time ever learning about OCD at all, thrilled that you're here, whether you're here with us live or you're watching on the replay on, YouTube or Facebook or wherever. So I always like to say that every letter of OCD is important, right? So we have O for obsessions, C for compulsions, and D for disorder. Or I guess if we're going to use the proper name, it's obsessive compulsive disorder. But so when we're talking about obsessions, those are these intrusive thoughts or images or feelings or urges that people have that they really feel like they can't control. So everyone in this world, it's maybe a little known secret, but everyone in the world has intrusive thoughts. So an example I like to give is the first time I held my baby cousin, right? I was maybe, 17 at the time. I was helping my aunt take care of him, and I was helping her, I was going to take him from upstairs to downstairs. And I remember standing there holding him at the top of the stairs thinking, good Lord, I could drop him and I could really hurt him or possibly kill him. Now, I am not someone who has OCD, so I had that thought. And for me, I was able to just, let it pass, say, what a funky thought. Let it pass, was able to bring him down the stairs. But that's when we talk about intrusive thoughts, that's something like what we mean. And I think everyone here in the audience may be able to think of a time when you've had a thought like that, whether or not you have OCD or whether or not you think about you have OCD. So I always use that for like a little empathy building, because that's really distressing, right? That's a really horrible thing to think that I could hurt this child or I could, whatever that intrusive thought might be. And it's not always a thought. It could be just a feeling, a sensation that things aren't right, that really just gets in there and is really sticky and you can't really wave away or let it pass away. It could be an image of something horrible happening or just something that really goes against who you think you are as a person or the things that you value. So obsessions can kind of look of any number of ways, but the key piece is that they're these intrusive, they're upsetting, and they're distressing, and they're not something that somebody wants to be doing. So the C, when we get to the compulsions aspect, so those are behaviors or, things that people do to try to make the bad feeling that they got from their intrusive thought, from their obsession, to either get less or to go away or to neutralize. So these can be things that you see. I think the most common one that, is often stereotyped and portrayed and is still a common compulsion is things like hand washing or arranging things in a certain way. And these are done, again, with the purpose of trying to make the bad feelings that are caused by the obsessions, those intrusive thoughts, images, sensations, to make it go away, to get less, to just neutralize them. But they can also be things that you can't see. So you call those mental compulsions, or things that just are going on in a person's head. So like mentally reviewing everything that happened, saying a prayer a certain number of times, counting to a certain number in your head. It can also be something like avoidance. Avoidance can be a compulsion. So, say if I had OCD and I had that thought about holding my son, he's not my son, my little cousin, maybe I would never hold him again, or at least never take him up or down the stairs, things like that. Just starting to avoid situations where I know those thoughts are going to come in. Asking for reassurance. So, as I could say to my aunt, are you sure I'm not going to drop him taking him down the stairs? Okay, but are you sure? Like, are you absolutely sure I'm not going to drop him if I take him down the stairs? So that's that we've talked about the O, we've talked about the C. So now we get to the D, which I think is possibly the most important letter when we talk about OCD, because that is disorder. And that speaks to the absolutely disabling and time consuming and just life limiting way that these obsessions and compulsions and the vicious cycle that happens takes over the lives of people who have OCD. So, I think clinically, as you asked, Chris, I got a little, I guess, less clinical in my description, but, the DSM defines it as, an hour or more a day. So just really getting in the way, like you're just so caught in this cycle of the obsessions and the intrusive thoughts that are in your brain, the compulsions, the things you do to try to make them go away, that, you're not able to participate in school. You're not able to hang out with your friends. It affects your relationship with your family. You can't go to work. Things like that. So the D, we always say the D is really important because it's disorder. It speaks to the really crippling nature and the disabling and debilitating nature of OCD. So anything I missed, Chris?
No, I think what's so good about you pointing out the D is that's really, if anybody asks, like, why is there an OCD Awareness Week? It's because of the D in OCD. Those of us, and I'm about to ask you about some of your personal experience, Kira, but those of us with OCD, it's like, it's not fun. It's not entertaining. We don't enjoy it. It's not something that we want. If anything, we're kind of tortured by these thoughts and these fears and these like internal body experiences. But I think what the public gets wrong is often OCD is used as something that is like beneficial and enjoyable. And I think that's what, if somebody was to ask me, why are you doing all these events, Chris? Or why is IOCDF putting on all these events for this week? It's so that more and more people start to recognize, like, hey, people with OCD are really suffering. And there's a lot of difficult moments that they experience minute to minute, hour by hour. They don't want it. And if they could wave a wand, they'd get rid of it. We don't all want to be a little OCD. So I think you said it beautifully. I also, pointing out, I'm glad you pointed out the mental compulsions, right? The reassurance, the avoidance. I think often, when people aren't too familiar with OCD, they think of hand washing or checking, but there's a lot of avoidance that we do. There's a lot of, rumination. We're in our heads all day, sort of tuned out of the world, trying to fix things, solve things, repair things in our head. It's exhausting. So thank you for that. Kira, Stephanie gave us a really, really good overview for those people that might just have found us for OCD Awareness Week and wanting to learn more about the basics. Can you kind of put a face on that? What is that like for you to kind of live and experience both at some of your worst times and your better times, what Stephanie described?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I could not have explained OCD any better myself. It's exactly like Stephanie said, it is a debilitating disorder. And it's not just a fun quirk that people might think it is. For kind of like a little bit of backstory, I was diagnosed with OCD in 2018. And at that time, I was a competitive gymnast. So I was training 34 hours a week. Gymnastics was pretty much my whole entire life.
It's like a job.
Yeah, honestly. And at that point, I had ritualistic OCD, which basically meant I had to do specific actions before I did certain skills, or I was convinced that I was going to fall and hurt myself. And so I would honestly stand there. One of them was I would be up on the beam and I would be consistently like squaring my hips over and over and over again until it felt just right. And at times it would take minutes. I think I was been standing there for like 20 minutes one time, and I felt so bad. All of my teammates were like waiting for me to do my skill, and I was just standing there squaring my hips over and over again. And no one, including me, like understood why. I just thought that I had maybe a mental block or something. But that was also like very distressing. And that's kind of when I started to realize that I had a problem, but it wasn't really affecting every other aspect of my life. Fast forward a few years, I actually got injured, had to have 3 hip surgeries. So gymnastics was no longer in the picture anymore. And my OCD really changed and morphed into contamination-based OCD. For reference, I've had many, many different subtypes. I think you need a stenographer for that list, honestly. But yeah, that's when contamination really became like my all-consuming like subtype. And that, I think it's pretty much, I lost gymnastics, which was a big part of my life. And so my brain was like, like how else are we going to fill these 34 hours a week that we used to spend training? Or like, I know, ruminating and thinking bad thoughts. So that basically became my whole life, and it progressed so quickly. In the beginning, I was a petulant teenager. I was like, me, like, no, I don't have a problem. Like, my OCD's fine. Like, I also in the beginning thought it was keeping me safe. But then, and so my mom always was trying to like, oh, like you should try ERP. And I'm like, don't worry, like I got it. And then it just increased exponentially. And I woke up and I was like, whoa, I don't got it. All of a sudden, I couldn't leave my house. I couldn't walk on like floors without socks or slippers. I had to completely clean my entire room and bathroom every night. My nighttime routine took me like 3 hours. One of my biggest like exposing myself moments was I used to wipe down my dressers in my bedroom with like soap and water because my mom took away all of the anti-vax stuff because she was trying to limit my compulsions. But all of these soap and water eventually started to grow like mold on my dressers. And that was really difficult. And obviously my mom freaked out, rightfully so. But it was a big realization. Like I can see that I'm doing harm and this is irrational, but I still can't stop. Like I still had to keep doing it every single time. My family also really didn't think that I would be able to graduate high school. Didn't think that I would be here today. My mom and I were both having a lot of suicidal ideations because I know OCD can really take its toll on the entire family. So it was just my mom and I. Nobody really understood what we were going through. I was in my own personal hell like 100% of the time with all of these thoughts. She was doing her best to help me, but it was also just such an insane like dynamic to navigate. So yeah, when everybody says, oh, like I'm so OCD, I was just like, oh, like you also went to sleep every day and wishing that you would like never wake up. But yeah, now I can kind of like talk about it a little bit more openly, but before it was really something that I was like extremely vulnerable about. And it was almost the end of me, unfortunately. But there's, not to be a Debbie Downer, there is hope after OCD. The IOCDF helped me so much in this respect. Support groups, these live streams, seeing all of like the advocates like Chris and Katie and Ethan, they really showed me that no matter how bad OCD gets, there's still a light at the end of the tunnel if you put in the hard work. And I genuinely would not be here today without them. But yeah, so that's pretty much, OCD is not just a fun quirk, it is a debilitating disorder and it takes over every aspect of your life. But it's not always the end. So.
Thank you so much for that, Kira. I mean, obviously I could hear the pain in your voice, just recognizing and rewinding sort of some of those hardest moments. And thank you for being open and sharing your story. I always love advocates that really spend their time dedicating to sharing their stories and kind of playing some of those hard moments. But, you know, while you're talking, it made me think of something. It's like, you know, thank you for the kind words about, you know, myself and the live streams. And, you know, sometimes the reason I tell people, you know, when people are like, why do you still advocate? And it's because there's still such a feeling out there that there isn't hope. You know, constantly, like I'm getting contacted from parents and they're like, can you talk to my son or my daughter? They just don't think there's hope. So I'm going to ask you both this question. Why do you think that there's still, you know, we know it because we're part of the IOCDF and we get people in front of good therapists and they get resources and we hear these success stories of someone that was struggling at a conference and then 2 years later are speaking. But why do you think the public in general, I hear this all the time, still don't think that there's hope to get better or resources to get better or a way out for OCD? Maybe I'll start with you, Stephanie, and then Kira.
Yeah, no, of course. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Kira. And we're so glad you're here. And now look at you doing the same that, you know, people like Chris and Ethan and Katie did. So it's a lovely cycle and chain that we're building here, right? But yes, that is a big question. And I think a lot of it comes down to stigma and shame. Because I think, we still, we're at the IOCDF, we're doing our best. Obviously, we have wonderful people like you both who are so willing to be so open and share your stories. But, you don't often see that happening on kind of a big level. And I think because of that, people still really don't understand, and they don't get not only what OCD is and, how serious it is and what it can mean, but also that there is hope, that there is, options for treatment that work, that there is an opportunity for a different path for you. And some of it, I think, also comes back to, these fundamental misunderstandings, based on stereotypes and things like that about what OCD is or isn't. So people may not even realize that what they're going through is OCD because it doesn't look like what we're shown on TV shows. And to me, that just underscores the importance of folks like you being so brave and sharing your stories and being so open, because it does make a difference. It is showing people that it's not only, hand washing and things like that. Of course, that is part of it, but that's not the only way that OCD can look. And really kind of demystifying what goes on in the brain that really makes it so torturous and so debilitating and just so all-consuming for folks. I think also there's, it's not necessarily unique to OCD, although I do think there's some special quirks with OCD, but mental health in general is still so stigmatized, I think, and, you were saying things about in your story, Kira, about, thinking you could get through it. There's this, pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality, excuse me. And I think that's something that we're fighting against, for all of us who do work in mental health, that mental health is health, right? Like having a problem or having a disorder, a diagnosis, or however you want to phrase it, having a brain that works differently from a standard brain, that's not something to be ashamed of. That's something that, it's there is help if you want help. There's there's a different path forward. There's opportunities for you. And, I could soapbox longer about the mental health care system and how it's not necessarily set up to benefit people. But that's, I think, maybe a story for a different day. And I'll let Kira take.
You can do a whole live stream on that for sure.
I know, right?
Next live stream topic picked already. Yeah, I would definitely say there's two things that really kind of made it seem like there wasn't a light at the end of the tunnel. First of all was the shame involved, like Stephanie was talking about. A lot of it, I thought that I did it to myself and that I was a bad person. I mean, after all, it's my thoughts that are making me feel this way. Everybody else's thoughts can function in a normal way is what I used to think. What's wrong with me? And do I even deserve to get better if this is what I think and how I think? And then also, I just didn't think that I was strong enough, honestly. OCD is so monopolizing, and it can take up pretty much, like I said, every aspect of your life. And doing ERP, which is the gold standard treatment for OCD, is basically facing your biggest fears over and over and over again. And it's terrifying. I would say it's like poking a bear and then just standing there, or jumping out of a plane if you're afraid of heights, one after another. And I just didn't think I had it in me. I just didn't think that I could go through that. And I didn't think that I was strong enough. But one day I kind of woke up, and I feel like it took me, myself hitting rock bottom a little bit, to realize I need to choose myself over my OCD, and it's worth a shot. I need to at least try, or else I had pretty much just given up. So I just posted an OCD advocacy reel on my Instagram. It's me when I finally choose myself over my OCD. And I really attribute my success to that, because if I hadn't made that choice, as difficult as it was, I would not be here today. And it wasn't an easy path. Every single day it was grueling hard work. Some days were better than others, but I would not say that anything has been more worth it for me in my treatment. And that's now why I choose to advocate primarily, to show other people that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because I thought at the ripe age of 15, 16, I thought my life was pretty much over and I could never get back to the person that I once was. So I promise you it is possible. It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows, but trust me, if I can do it, I think anybody can do it. And we're all here like right behind you to support you. That's what's great about the OCD community. Everybody's always hyping each other up, doing exposures with everyone. So yeah, definitely hope is out there and you deserve it. So
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like, I always tell my clients, obviously a lot of them find me and know my backstory, but I always tell it's not just me. There are so many people out there, all ages, different, there's people getting treatment for the first time in their 60s, and I'll have clients sometimes say, what's the point? I'm like, with modern medicine, you may get, 30, 40 more years. Like, how great would it be at some point of your life to experience what it's like to not have your brain sort of attack you and control you, et cetera. And so I hope people watching this know at all ages, at all stages, no matter the subtype, no matter the severity, like there's help out there. Speaking of help, let's talk about the IOCDF. So I always kind of, my like elevator sales pitch when I'm telling somebody about the IOCDF at like an OCD SoCal event, or, somebody asks me what I do, or I have like 8,604 walk shirts. So I like work out in them. I go to the grocery store in them. I don't wear them like out. I'm not that crazy, right? I'm not at a nightclub bouncing around in my walk shirt, but I wear it all the time, and people will ask me, people will like ask questions and stuff. My mom and I were at a Greek restaurant once, and we had like one of the OCD tote bags for the conference that people were asking. So people are curious. But I always tell them the IOCDF is kind of like the international one-stop shop to get everything, whether it's education, resources, community, find a therapist, etc. But that's kind of vague. That I only get like a minute with them. So Stephanie, we get a little bit more time. So how would you, for the people that found us this week, or people that aren't even familiar, maybe they've been watching these live streams but don't really know what the IOCDF has to offer, what are some of those main exciting things that people can access through the IOCDF?
Yeah, no, great. Always happy to talk about the IOCDF. I kind of, the way I think, I've been here almost 13 years, so I've tried out various ways of talking about what we do at an organization. But where I finally landed is that, we're kind of there to support the OCD community, no matter who you are as part of it. So that includes people living with OCD, the friends, families, supporters, caregivers of those with OCD, mental health professionals and other clinicians in the field, and researchers who are doing, investigations into the world of OCD. And whether causes, treatments, et cetera. So, if we kind of think about, there's things that we do that serve all those populations at once. And I think our annual OCD conference is a great example of that. It happens over the summer, and it's next year is going to be in Seattle in July. So keep an eye out, Seattle 2020.
Finally, some normal weather. Yeah. It's like, we're going to go to Orlando in July. I melted. I'm not even fully skilled yet, but I'm so excited about Seattle.
Yeah, no, but the conference is one of those many opportunities throughout the year where everyone comes together and we have something for everybody. We've even, as of late, been experimenting with hybrid virtual attendance. So if you can't join, obviously we'd love to have you in person in Seattle, but if not, there's opportunities to attend online. And it includes people in our community of all ages. We have a very robust and fun youth program as part, and it's always fun to see little 6 and 7-year-olds running around doing their exposure activities and being so brave together. And we have a lot of other conferences that we offer as well. And when I'm speaking of the youth, we have our OCD camp coming up early in the year, which has content for youth of all ages and also their families. So keep an eye out for more about that. The program should be available in the next month or so. But obviously the conference is wonderful, but it's only that one time a year, those handful of times a year. And I think there's some really fantastic ways to get involved throughout the year. And I always like to tell folks that, I work for headquarters or national or whatever you want to call us at IOCDF, but we have wonderful affiliates that may be right in your backyard. So Chris, I know you're really involved with OCD SoCal, who's our Southern California affiliate, but we have them in, I think, over 30 states and regions across the country at this point. So definitely check out our site and see if there's someone who's right in your backyard. And then you don't even have to wait until next July to do something with the amazing OCD community. And including, I know a lot of the times the affiliates put on walks. And this is actually, it's still walk season. So definitely check out, I think it's iocdf.org/walk. And maybe there's going to be one happening in your community like next week.
I'm walking this weekend.
Amazing. See, thanks. And you're in Houston, right, Kira? Or
yes, October 18th. Anybody in the Houston area, pull up. I'm getting a big group of my friends and we're all going. Very excited.
Yeah, so I know there are a few of you in the chat who said Texas. So if Houston is your neck of the Texas woods, join Kira and her friends. It's going to be so much fun. But yeah, the affiliates do events all year round as well. It's not limited to the walks, although of course that's an awesome opportunity. It's just such a great day. If you've never been to a walk, I definitely encourage you to check those out. But I mentioned these other groups. So we also do a lot of professional trainings. We do our Behavior Therapy Training Institute, or our BTTI, is kind of the biggest one that you may, if you have heard of anything we do training wise, that's likely what you've heard of. We also do, consultation groups for clinicians. We have our first ever pediatric focused advanced forum coming up in just a few weeks, actually next week. So very soon, if you're
in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the first time we've ever done an advanced training on working with pediatric OCD. So we're really excited about that. And we actually just launched a really cool and free option. We're calling it OCD Basics, but the goal of that is to try to teach people, it's kind of in the name, the basics about what OCD is, how it's diagnosed, and how it's treated without gatekeeping it at all. It's free. And, we're going to do a big dissemination push to, graduate schools to try to teach clinicians even earlier than they may be receiving it about what OCD is, so we can help increase access to, effective care, accurate diagnosis, and earlier detection. And then, for our researchers, we have an incredible research grant program. The details likely are going to launch in the next month or two, but that's usually open in January and maybe a little bit later as well. But we fund folks who we have kind of two types of research studies that we fund. One is kind of your more traditional, several $100,000 awards for maybe a more established researcher who's been in the field for a while. But then one of the cool things that I think is personally most exciting is we call them our Janicki Young Investigator Awards, after Dr. Michael Janicki, who many of you may know, or if you're new to us, you may not know, but he has a wonderful legacy in our OCD community. And those are smaller grants, but they're still really foundational for young researchers. So folks who are still in school or up to 5 years after they graduate or finish their terminal degree. And that's just really exciting. Not a lot of folks are kind of funding at that level. So I'm always really excited to talk about the Janicki Awards. And then, we do things year round. Like, you can always call us or email us. We're happy to help you navigate. We have on our website a resource directory, which is a really comprehensive centralization of, kind of resources. There's no better way to talk about it, but we have listings of clinicians. We have support groups in there. I saw there was a question about a support group. If you haven't checked the resource directory, please do, because you may find one. And if not, give us a call or an email and we'll help you out. We list clinics there, treatment programs for, the higher levels of care. So really is your one-stop shop. And it's both in-person resources in your neighborhood. You can search by your zip code or your city or however works best. And teletherapy. So that's, if that's a new concept, basically what it means is getting treatment either via computer or via phone. And what's cool about teletherapy is all the clinician needs is to be licensed in your state. So that means they could live at the completely other side of the state, or in some cases, they may not even live in your state. They just have a license in your state, but they can still help you. So it really helped expand treatment opportunities. And especially, I think, to folks who maybe live in more rural or remote areas. You don't have to drive to the big city or anything. You can just, go on your computer or go on your phone and get treatment. So there's kind of two tabs in the resource directory, and I always like to mention that. And then, we have an advocate program, which I know you both are part of. We do a lot of advocacy and, sharing of stories and kind of demystifying and destigmatizing OCD to the general public. We have a lot of information and education on our website. That's, again, freely available to all. A lot of good stuff. I'm probably missing things, but
I'll throw out one there that you missed, just because I saw a comment from Enlightenment for Your Life on YouTube at 1227. They're 13-year-olds kind of struggling in school. We have a great program also on the IOCDF website. It's Anxiety in the Classroom, and it does also address a lot of OCD stuff. So if you're a parent, if you're a teacher watching this, if you're somebody really struggling in your school, there's some great resources. So Enlightenment for Your Life, hearing stories like this about your child at 13 really struggling in school breaks our heart. So please check out Anxiety in the Classroom. There's a lot of really good resources, and we always have I have to also add resources for related disorders. So we have body dysmorphic disorder. There's a separate website. There's an online conference. There's a lot of stuff with BFRB. So for skin picking, excoriation disorder, or hair pulling trichotillomania. hoarding disorders. So there's a lot of great stuff, but you covered like 99%. So you did great. That comment reminded me of
No,
studying
please,
the classroom.
There's
No,
just too much
that's-
good stuff.
yeah, it's I gotta start like taking notes on my hand, right? Don't forget. Yeah.
Oh, and I have to say, if you're in California, first of all, shout out to Kim Quinlan and Andrew Cohen. We had a great walk on Sunday, but we have another walk, Michelle Whitkin, in Santa Clarita this Saturday, the 18th as well. There's a lot of walks. A lot of people are getting their steps in for OCD. We love it. Kira, tell us a little bit, like a personal touch on that. Like, how did you first find the IOCDF, and what has it meant to you, and what has it kind of meant for your recovery?
Yeah, definitely. I think I first found out about the IOCDF through my mom. I was very lucky. My mom did a lot of research. She was trying to help me in the best way possible. And at that time, I was still like I'm fine, or like, oh, like ERP, like I can do that. I don't need like a therapist. Like trust, I can do it. Spoiler alert. Didn't work. Do not listen to your 15-year-old kid when they say that. That was my bad. But yeah, my mom definitely really helped get me access to a lot of amazing resources for OCD. I joined a lot of support groups through IOCDF, and it was through those that I kind of learned how important support groups were. Like in the beginning, I was kind of just there, kind of half listening, because it's difficult and vulnerable to like engage in that way. But I remember for the first time, like hearing somebody share a intrusive thought or compulsion that was exactly the same as mine, and I was like, whoa! I thought I was the only like crazy person who like did or thought this, and I felt so seen in that moment. And if you would have told Kira, wow, back in like 2021, that she would be running her own organization that provides support groups, I would have said you're absolutely insane. But it truly is like the most important thing, finding a community and people that really understand you, because as supportive as your parents or your peers are, it's really different getting to talk to and be around people who actually know what you're going through or that have OCD themselves. Like some of my closest friends I've met through the OCD community. At the conference last year, I roomed with 3 of my super close friends, and that was an absolute blast. Very many late night yap sessions in the hotel room in Chicago. But yeah, and also like helping find therapists, helping like reading the blogs of like advocates' stories and things like that. Also, they have a lot of really great educational pamphlets for if you're just starting off with OCD, or if you're trying to figure out how to explain OCD to a loved one. They have a bunch of really great resources for that. And so I could just like send people links and be like, hey, like if you're interested in learning more about it, check this out. It's extremely accurate and was really, really helpful in case I don't want to go through the whole rigmarole again, if I want to just put it out there for them to read at their own convenience. Yeah, the OCD affiliates are also really amazing. I'm involved with OCDI Texas, so I'm excited to see everybody from there this weekend. But yeah, overall, IOCDF couldn't be a better organization or better group of people. As I mentioned before, I'm also on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Action Council. And so for the last few years, I was on the Community-Based Outreach and Treatment Task Force. I think it's a mouthful, but yeah. And so that was really great. We were expanding kind of access to evidence-based like therapy for OCD, and really advocating and updating like the pamphlets and the fact sheets to be more inclusive and culturally appropriate of people of different backgrounds, things like that. And right now I'm on the Disability and Accessibility Task Force. So I'm also really excited about the work we're doing there. It's very broad. So definitely, I really like the one-stop shop quote. It's perfect. Pretty much everything you need is there. So yeah.
All I'm saying, if y'all want to borrow it and put it on t-shirts, just in little letters, put my name just so I feel special.
Yeah.
Trademark, yeah.
Yeah.
Get on that. Get the patent.
Yeah.
Anything right now.
Start. Yeah, no, I mean, I think what you said, Kira, I know for me, and I don't know your experience, Kira, and I don't know like the experience for people watching. I'm like, if you see my eye over here, it's 'cause I'm reading the comments, which are amazing. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think what the reason I'm still so dedicated to the IOCDF all these years later is like, after just being at the lowest point in my life. I mean, my mom, if anybody knows her, is a workhorse, and I don't know the whole timeline. It feels like a year and a half in my head, but it was like we tried everything to find me help. And it was like, therapists saying, it could be because of you're not open about, one of the therapists said it might be because of my sexual orientation. Other therapists were like, you need to just like imagine being on a beach when you have these thoughts. Like there's so many things that didn't help. Their therapist just clearly didn't know what OCD was, wanted to talk about it. And it's like when you're at that lowest point and you're finally in front of these professionals, you're like, oh my God, I'm finally going to get some relief. They're going to understand it. And it wasn't. And it's like when you're already kind of beaten down and then you get bad therapy. And, one of the experts who saw me in the area, experts very lightly, was like, you're the worst case, telling my parents I'm going to live in the basement, and they'll have to take care of me. But it was like my mom, I don't know how, but found the IOCDF on the website and went to the directory. Why I haven't memorized. I don't have any tattoos, but if I did, I'd get it. But, my mom found iocdf.org /find-help. And we found a therapist. Unfortunately, the closest therapist for me was like a 4-hour round trip, but we did it every week. My mom and I would carpool up there. But it was just from the first appointment, you could tell how different it was to really work with someone that had received, had been going to IOCDF conferences, had received training through the foundation, and quoted or contributed a lot of her education to the IOCDF. And just to get somebody that like can pull you out of the darkest moments of your life, give you tools, work along your side, and get you to a better place. I remember after leaving, I'm like, I had a whole other career, and I'm like, I feel like I can't just abandon this world that finally, I got this help. So I think anybody watching, I think that the other thing is there's so many like low cost and free events and things through the IOCDF and talks and things like that, that even if you are struggling to find an individual provider, I feel like just going to the conferences when I was at my worst. I remember the first conference I went to, I was so sick. We had planned to stay all weekend, but I could only stay for a day because my OCD, I got super triggered and had to leave. But just leaving there, that's when I saw Liz McInville speak. And I was like, she's kind of my age. Like she's somebody I could put a face. And she was talking about her success. There was a girl who had talked about, I can't remember her name, but she had talked about starting a support group at her high school. And I was like, oh my God, like this is a thing. So thank you, IOCDF. Thank you, Stephanie and the staff. I know for me, I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't find the IOCDF. So I really hope people that are on the fence, like I said, I always feel like OCD Awareness Week brings a lot of people to our community. I really hope you access the website and spend some time on it, really check it out. Because I know for me, who knows where we'd be, right, Kira, if like we were just still like wandering with bad therapists and not hearing hope stories, not finding a community. It's like if the IOCDF didn't exist. I just remember the isolation and helplessness I felt prior to finding this community.
Definitely. It feels like you're out in an abyss and there's no help anywhere. And thankfully, the IOCDF really helps bridge that gap, gives you people to look up to, and gives you really great community and friends. So,
yeah.
And I just want to add to that. I think we all feel, and hopefully this is the experience you both had, but I always think it's really important to share. It's kind of a come as you are kind of thing. And that's kind of what we're really hoping everyone takes away from this, that it's not that you have to be in treatment or have to be recovered or whatever word you want to use to get involved. We have something, no matter where you are, we want to meet you where you're at. So, if this is the first time you're even thinking the word OCD, fantastic. Welcome. We're thrilled to have you. If you've been managing it for decades, fantastic. Wonderful. We're thrilled to have you. So hopefully there's something for everybody. And we want folks to come as they are and just feel that they can be wherever they are on their journey. And hopefully we have resources and programs and opportunities for you, that whole spectrum.
Absolutely. Really well said. Yeah. I always tell people you don't have to be like recovered to help other people. That's why I love running support groups clinically, because I can talk about my recovery, I could talk about my clinical experience, but being surrounded by people that are like living it currently, there's just something about that camaraderie and that part of not feeling alone, which is so huge. What I want to ask both of you about is the treatment. Somebody watching this right now and is wanting to learn more about getting help. I will say real quick, I'm going to actually pivot from my own statement to the therapist watching this, because you mentioned this, Stephanie. I bookmarked it in my head. I think one of the things that's so great about the IOCDF as well is for a lot of us therapists, we don't get a lot of OCD training in undergrad or graduate school, right? I went to school, I think 7-8 years in total. And then you have all the hours of training. It's like a decade to become a therapist in California. And I got little to no OCD treatment, in fact, education. In fact, my grad professor let me teach the segment on OCD because she's like, way more than I do. So, but there is that training, the BTTI, which is an ability for you to get in front of some of the top, names in our field, including people like Eric Storch, Alec Pollard, Aureen Wagner, like so many great people. But really learning and understanding like what OCD is, what the treatment looks like, how to work with tough cases, getting case consultation, getting consultation afterwards. So I think that's great too, is like most of the people working in our field right now have done a training through the IOCDF. So if you're a new clinician, all the time I get a lot of emails from live streams about clinicians that are still associates. Please go to the IOCDF and really, really work on looking at all the different training and consultation opportunities, because that really sharpens it. Going back to my last question, Stephanie, what does the treatment look like? Let's say somebody found us, they're struggling, they're like, I don't think there's help. What would that look like?
Yeah. And, I think, as I said earlier, I think the beauty of our field is there's actually a bunch of treatments that work. And, the research shows actually do help the majority of people. As Kira so beautifully outlined for us, it is hard work. And I can completely understand. And we hear so often that, it's totally natural and normal to be apprehensive or worried about what that hard work is going to look like. But I guess just to go back to, your question, we actually just recently, well, I guess not recently, but a couple months ago, we overhauled the way we talk about treatment on our website. And we have this updated treatment guidelines. I want to say it's IOCDF.org/OCD treatment guide, but I could be wrong. Maybe my colleague can help and pop it in the chat.
I know. I always just Google it and bookmark it.
Yeah, I'm bad at remembering URLs. It's just click. But anyway, so the way we have it organized in the treatment guide is, first line treatment, which is kind of maybe, perfect. Thank you so much. Is what to try first, just because that has the strongest research and history behind it that shows its efficacy. And then we have second line, or, try this next, or if, first didn't work for you for whatever reason, then there's third line. And then we talk about experimental or promising stuff that folks are looking into, but we just don't know enough about yet to say whether or not it's recommended. And then we also have adjunctive or augmentive, which are big fancy words for things you can add on to any level of treatment to kind of supercharge it and give it a little extra oomph. So the first line treatments are exposure with response prevention, or ERP, which is a type of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. I always think it's important to call it that is a type of CBT, because CBT is this huge umbrella of treatment and different types of treatment. So specifically when we're talking OCD, your best bang for your buck in the CBT world is going to be ERP for that first line. There's also a variety of medications that can be used. The overarching umbrella is, and I always like to call this out too, because people are like, wait a minute. They're selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs, which colloquially are often called antidepressants. So you may hear antidepressants and say, wait a minute, I don't have depression, I have OCD. What are we talking about here? But that's just the colloquial term for this class of medication, and it does work on OCD. So just go to that site, read all about it. Those are the first lines, but I know there's so many other treatment modalities you can learn about on there that also have a great evidence base and do support. So, things like, I know there's been a lot of interest recently in both the clinical and lived experience community of ICBT, or inference-based CBT. So, and again, another type of treatment under that CBT umbrella. So that's a second line treatment. So something, if you tried European meds that didn't work, or if you had trouble tolerating or you're getting through, ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, is another one that I think gets a lot of buzz. And we talk about, and when you're talking about augmentive, there's DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, there's mindfulness, cognitive therapy strategies. when we're going up to third line or kind of the, you've already tried first, second, and are stepping up, there's the more invasive or medical options like deep brain stimulation or transcranial magnetic stimulation. It's a lot of acronyms you're going to find, but the treatment guide does a really good job, I think. And of course, if you all disagree, please feel free to tell us. But of breaking it down, these really complex treatments and processes, and really trying to guide you stepwise through, where the science says your best bang will be versus, and everyone's an individual person with their own treatment journey. So we want to give you all the options and all the information we have, and then you can kind of take it from there. Yeah.
Good coverage. Really well explained. And thank you, Boris, for the link. What I like about that webpage too is it's not just listing it. You can really click on the different modalities and get a lot of information and find out more resources, which I think is amazing. How for you, Kira, like when you kind of, what did your treatment journey look like? Like, how did you find the clinician you worked with? What did it look like? And what's kind of recovery looking like for you?
Yeah, so I guess in the beginning, I went through a few different therapists to find the right fit, which is very normal. A few of them in the beginning, they weren't very versed on OCD, so they were trying to do a lot of talk therapy, things like that. I wasn't really getting any better. Another one kept pushing for treatments that I didn't necessarily find that were helping to me. They might have been helpful to somebody else, but personally, they were doing mental, I guess, exposures. But for me, I didn't really find much help with those. I need to actually be out there doing the exposures. And that's what really helped me. So the one therapist that I found that was really, really helpful, it was a crazy kind of switch up. I kind of described it as I liked all of my other previous therapists, but I didn't like this one. And I think that's what actually worked, because she made me do the scary stuff. She really pushed me. She did the exposures while I was on the phone with her. I'm a big proponent of telehealth. It really did wonders for me. But yeah, every time I would be like, oh, I don't want to do therapy right now because it's difficult. But I think that's how it's actually working, and that's what's making such an impact for you. And so after the first 2 weeks, I started to see improvement, and I was like, okay, at least this is working, and that really helps motivate me going forward. And so yeah, also on the topic that a lot of mental health professionals aren't versed with OCD. I know when I switched from my child psychiatrist to my adult one when I turned 18, I was getting Prozac prescribed, and all I wanted was a refill of my medication. But she came on and she's just like, you know what? I don't think you need Prozac anymore. She's like, fish oil and vitamin B. It's going to solve all your problems. And I'm like, I fear not. And then she's just like, no, she's like, trust it will. And I was like, oh, okay. And she's just like, have you tried just not thinking about it? And I was like, and this was a I guess, respected psychiatrist. Oh
boy.
And so I was just like, that just shows how little OCD, I guess, treatment and education is stressed in school and things like that. So I stepped into the advocate role. I'm like, well, actually, and I started going off on my spiel. But yeah, definitely the IOCDF also has a lot of really great resources to help you advocate for yourself, which I also really liked when I was kind of stepping more into that advocate role. That really helped me transition from, I guess, being the one who was primarily helped to the one who was hopefully helping. But yeah, a lot of great OCD therapist recommendations came through the IOCDF. That's also, I think, how we found out about the little add-on acceptance and commitment-based therapy, which I found really, really helpful in combination with ERP. So yeah, that's pretty much how IOCDF really helped me with like treatment and everything like that, and really knowing what to look for in an OCD therapist. Because once I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't feel like I'm getting a lot of help out of these. But then we like went on to the IOCDF and we're like, okay, this isn't what I should be. This is what I should be looking for instead. And then once I started looking for that, then I actually found a lot of improvement.
Yeah, there's a great article on our site about just that, Kira, about things to like questions to ask a prospective clinician.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously, as the IDC, we're trying to hit both sides, right? Like we're trying to train the clinician, so hopefully no one ever has to hear, "Let's do some fish oil." Ever, right? Fish oil might help you for other things, but there's no scientific basis for it helping with OCD. So yeah, we're trying to train the clinicians, and in the meantime, we want to give tools the folks the empowerment to ask these questions and to, to the best of your ability, know that you like feel confident about the care that you're going to be receiving.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think the other thing, and I don't know how you felt about this, Kira, and what you see, Steph, but I think one of the things that I hope we continue to do, I know there's been talks that I've been on and other people talking about this as well, is like, even though ERP was difficult, at least with my clinician, she also utilized a lot of mindfulness, a lot of acceptance and commitment therapy. I didn't know it at the time, but she used a lot of DBT tip skills. Like for me, temperature really helps regulate me. So, sitting in front of my air conditioning, blasting it in my face in my car, or putting ice on my wrist, or drinking water to kind of cool me off when I was getting like really worked up. But a lot of acceptance and commitment therapy and mindfulness, in the sense of like, I'm going to have thoughts and they're going to be present. Can I use some cognitive diffusion and not own them, and really like look at them out there and let them pass? But ultimately, exposure with response prevention, I know when a lot of people have talked about it, they make it sound like horrible and scary. But to me, I remember things like my therapist and I like walking to a food place and eating together because I was afraid of eating food with my hands, or her encouraging me to spend more time with my youngest sister and my grandma because I had harm thoughts around them. Practicing letting things go because of my perfectionism. So for me, I looked at it as really like a set of skills for life. So I know some people have a lot of fear about doing treatment, but it should be collaborative. It should feel like you're being empowered, and it should feel like you're starting to trust yourself and really get that confidence back we all had prior to OCD. In the remaining time, what I kind of want to end on is it's OCD Awareness Week 2025, which is like the best week of the world, the busiest week, and I'm exhausted. I can't wait till my sleep in on Sunday morning, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I know you're both like crazy busy, but what do you hope comes out of this Awareness Week? What do you hope? What would feel like this Awareness Week was a win in our books, the OCD community? Start with you, Steph.
Yeah, no, I think, I always think that, we have as an organization these grand goals for awareness and change. And then I think if I, take my IOCDF hat off, just put my Steph hat on, I would say even one person thinking a bit differently and having, an open heart, open mind, and a willingness to change the way they may have been thinking about OCD before, I would call that a win. And I would also call it a win if someone, with OCD discovers this for the first time and says, oh, okay, now I know I should go maybe seek out ERP or a medication. That should be my first step here. And then I think the biggest win of all would be just for all of those of us in the OCD community, whether you've been here a while or are new, just to know you're not alone and that there's hope. So, obviously we love to change hearts and minds. And at the same time, I also want to just feel successful in knowing that we have this incredible community and that you are a part of it for watching this. And we're so happy you're here.
Absolutely. Really well said. For you, Kara.
Ooh, okay. I was also going to say the just one person thing is enough. But since that answer has already been taken, gosh, I would definitely say giving people hope that there's a life including OCD, not necessarily after, because I'm not saying that I don't deal with intrusive thoughts or like compulsions anymore, because I still do. But now knowing how to manage them, I have finally taken my life back from OCD. So definitely knowing that there's hope in that. And also if there's anybody else like out there watching that has a loved one that has OCD, any kind of like ability to understand maybe what they're going through a little bit more, or how to like help them through this like very difficult thing that they're going through. I think anything like that is definitely a win in my books. And plus, I just enjoy celebrating OCD Awareness Week. It's such a big part of my life, and it's also about like celebrating me a little bit in a conceited kind of way. Like, hey, I kind of did it. So now I'm on the other side, and I hope I get to help other people do the same. So.
It's not conceited at all. That's amazing. And definitely worthy of celebration.
Thank you.
I think for me, I mean, just seeing all that the foundation's doing, right? Like we have the most robust and strong advocate program we've ever had. So I know there's so many people that are using this week to use that IOCDF advocate platform, whether it's, you know, being part of walks, doing conferences, speaking at their colleges, you know, reaching out to 5 people, doing a phone bank for really trying to help change some of the stuff going on in our government. So there's so much of that. We have people like Sheena Shea and Zane Gonzalez and Ali Reisman that are ambassadors for us and really trying to get the word on the more public venues. So my hope is seeing all those you know, it was so impressive to look at that calendar and see all the events happening around the globe. So I know that Liz Linley has been working her bootay off, and there's so many more international advocates and people speaking and people connecting with us. So to me, it's just growth. It's just changing the conversation. I think, you know, it broke my heart doing my thesis and finding out how many people get misdiagnosed with OCD and don't know what it is. And it doesn't just affect the public, it affects treatment providers. With some, you know, most people see their general physician first line to find treatment for OCD. And usually 60 to 80% of those people in America misdiagnose. So I feel hopeful seeing that all that's being done, because it looks like we're making waves, making movement. That would be my hope. All right, final thought, like a sentence or two to take everybody out for this OCD Awareness Week of hope and excitement. Stephanie.
Thank you. We're so excited. We're all working together, and all my coworkers are going to laugh because this is sort of my little catchphrase, but I truly believe it, that teamwork makes the dream work. So we're all doing this together. There is no act of awareness or, you know, education too big or too small. It's all wonderful, and we are all together, and big group hug for OCD Awareness Week.
Love it. Kira.
I definitely say you are more than your OCD, and you deserve everything that your OCD is keeping from you. And working towards that, although hard, definitely worth it. You deserve it. Go do it. You're going to do amazing.
And my final thought, there's a really good comment from Spence Robert talking about OCD is more just thoughts. The feelings are intrusive. The experience is intrusive. And that's what I want to say. I think a lot of times people are like, well, just stop thinking it. It's a whole body experience with OCD. So we hear you, Spence. I think you wrapped it up beautifully. I always love when people can talk about their own OCD. I think it makes people feel seen. Thank you so much for joining us on this live stream, everybody. It was so good to see all the comments, all the connection, everybody clicking with everybody. It's beautiful to see this community thrive. Make sure you go to iocdf.org/OCD week. There are still amazing events happening all the way until Saturday night at 11:59 and 59 seconds. So please find something that you can really, really sink your teeth in and just find community. And as always, make sure to go to iocdf.org for everything, your one-stop shop for OCD and related disorders. We will be back here next Wednesday. It's going to be myself and Kimberly Quinlan. So come back to next Wednesday at 12 Eastern for the Ask the Experts live stream. And of course, my final thought, besides thanking everybody for coming, is to thank Stephanie Kogan and Kira Cheng. Oh, I'm going to butcher your last name. Kira, how do you say it?
You're so good. It's Chung.
Chung. I hear you say it a million times, especially on the Instagram lives. I watch them sometimes. So I need to beat myself up for that.
No, you're so good.
I should have just stuck with first names. I'm horrible. I can't even pronounce my last name. So Stephanie and Kira, it's so great to see you. Thank you. All the work that you're doing for this community. You were the 2 best bright stars to be on this live stream this week. And everybody take care. OCD is manageable, beatable, and you can get into recovery like Kira. So please have the hope. Thank you so much for joining us, and take care and have a great rest of your OCD Awareness Week.